Again, I still think going back to kind of what are the three ways that you can reduce caloric intake. You can calorie restrict directly, so just track and reduce globally. You can dietary restrict, which is pick certain elements within the diet, carbs, fat, whatever, restrict. Or you can time restrict, create a smaller and smaller window in which to eat. The biggest drawback of that final strategy, which again is a viable strategy, but the biggest drawback of it, in my opinion, is the reduction in protein intake. So we've seen clinical trials that have documented this, that first and foremost, the time-restricted feeding within that 24-hour period doesn't seem to produce any benefits above the caloric restriction that it brings.
Okay, it's just
meaning there is nothing magical about the time restriction beyond the calories that are being restricted.
Has no different impact than small amounts of satiation throughout the day with...
There's nothing that has been measured or documented in any clinical trial that suggests that that is beneficial over the caloric restriction. In other words, if you're going to eat 2,000 calories spread out over 12 hours, or you're going to eat 2,000 calories spread out over 6 hours, where you're, you're time restricted feeding for 18 hours, we're not seeing any difference.
Wow.
So what more likely happens is the person who calorie restricts has an easier time, believe it or not, maintaining muscle mass than the person who time restricts. But my impression is that when you time restrict, you're just less likely to eat as much protein. And secondly, as you kind of alluded to earlier, it's a delicate balance to get the right amount of amino acids into the muscles.
What would cause that to happen?
Either too much or too little. So
and what's too much and what's too little?
Yeah, sort of 10 to 20 grams of protein. The liver is going to preferentially take that and use it as glucose. And anything over about 50 grams, the liver is going to say, I'm going to take that excess and also make it glucose. So let's just say your number is 180 grams of protein per day. Eating 18 servings of 10 grams a day, not going to achieve optimal results. Having one serving of 180, also not going to. So that person really probably ought to be doing 4 servings of 45.
Right. So you're saying for most people, it seems like roughly a sweet spot is 25 to 50 grams per serving. So in this regard...
And that time-restricted feeding guy has a really hard time doing that if he's going to be deliberate about that.
How big is the gap? When does a feeding window stop?
That's a great question. Probably about 3 or 4 hours.
So it's basically impossible.
For the time-restricted feeding person,
yes,
unless they're willing to eat protein outside of their window.
Which, if you are dogmatic around...
If you're dogmatic, it becomes very difficult.
Correct.
But if you understand that and what we do with our patients who want to do time-restricted feeding, because I think it's the easiest one to do. It's the easiest one conceptually to do. It's the easiest one to be compliant with.